and beloved of the Lord. Today, we want to talk about 3 principles of wisdom. One from Proverbs 16, verse 16. The second one from Proverbs 17, verse 3. And our final verse from Proverbs 20 and verse 15. You're going to find that each one of them have something in common. And I hope that this will be fun for us to explore these 3 principles. Chapter 16 talks about this. How much better to get wisdom than gold? To get insight rather than silver. And so we have 2 ideas here. One is wisdom and the other is insight. And they're compared to 2 precious metals, gold and silver. And our teacher is sharing with us that it's better to get wisdom than gold. And it's better to get insight than silver. Well, what is our teacher telling us here? He's saying that make sure you have your priorities straight. Make sure that you focus on the right things. Wisdom and insight are more important than the material things of life. Gold and silver here could represent anything that we strive after in the material world. And it could be something that we go after at the expense of pursuing wisdom and insight in our lives. Our second verse from chapter 17, verse 3 says, "The crucible for silver and the furnace for gold, but the Lord tests the heart." And so we have gold and silver mentioned once again, but in a little different twist. He's talking about how they are refined, how silver in the crucible becomes beautiful. The impurities are burned off in the crucible, or gold where the impurities are burned off in the furnace. And so he's comparing those 2 precious metals with our own hearts. Because he's saying that the Lord tests the heart. In other words, the Lord puts our hearts into the crucible, if you will, or he puts our hearts into the furnace. Why? Why do we have to go into the crucible or go into the furnace? So that our hearts are tested, and the dross, the impurities in our life are burned away, and so that we can be more pure before the Lord our God. Our teacher is giving us wisdom here. He's saying, don't shrink away from the tests and trials of life. Don't shrink away from the pressures that come, that can test your heart, that can cleanse your heart, can burn off the impurities and cause your focus to be greater on the Lord. Our final verse in chapter 20 and verse 15 also talks about gold, but this time he talks about rubies as well. And he says, gold there is, and rubies in abundance. There's plenty of precious metals and precious jewels, but lips that speak knowledge are a rare jewel. Well, what is our professor telling us here about knowledge, about gaining wisdom and insight? Again, what is he telling us? He's saying, look, Again, going back to our first proverb, if you're going to go after gold, silver, precious metals, and jewels, precious jewels like rubies, and other material things that we think are so valuable and important, he's saying, I'd rather you have lips that speak knowledge. I'd rather you be able to share what you know with others. That's a rare jewel. Isn't that something? Gold is in abundance, rubies are in abundance, precious metals and precious jewels are really in abundance. They're available. But one who speaks wisdom and knowledge, that's a rare jewel. And God is telling us, look, in all three of these, each of these principles, he's saying, don't focus your attention on the valuable metals and jewels of life. Don't focus your attention on the material prosperity that can be gained from this world. Rather, focus your attention on wisdom, insight, and knowledge. And not only that, but make sure that when you're going through pressured times, when you're going through the crucible, when you're going through the furnace of life, that you learn the lessons that God has for you in those times. A wise man, a wise woman, a wise youth will learn in the crucibles and the furnaces of life. That's when the Lord tests our hearts and we come out the other side better people, more pure, more righteous in the Lord's eyes. And so choose this day what's going to be most valuable in your life. Will it be wisdom, insight, and knowledge? Or will it be gold and silver and rubies? Things that don't last versus things that are permanent and more valuable to your life. Well, I hope this short devotional is a blessing to you, and I hope your studies in the Psalms and Proverbs bring you great wisdom, insight, and knowledge. Have a blessed weekend.